We're always told to watch our salt, right?
Mm.
Especially when it comes to blood pressure. But what if I told you that what you eat could actually matter more than how much salt you're shaking on your food?
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today. Salt, calories, and blood pressure. This deep dive is actually inspired by a study that we found in the Orium's Fit Research Digest blog. They do a really great job at breaking down complex research.
Yeah, they do. It's a fascinating study. It really challenges the traditional thinking when it comes to salt.
Right?
The study itself was published in Scientific Reports, and the researchers were from Tel Aviv University. They basically wanted to look at how salt intake, calorie intake, and blood pressure are all connected.
So how they do that? Do they just like have people keep food diaries or something?
Not quite, no. They actually followed 582 adults in Israel, all between the ages of 25 and 65. They tracked their salt intake using something called the 24-hour urine sodium excretion method.
Okay, so what is that?
I mean, think about it. It's really hard to remember exactly how much salt you've eaten.
Right.
This eliminates the guesswork.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, very accurate measurement. It's considered the gold standard for accuracy, which makes the findings of this study even more interesting.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what they find, were people in Israel actually like sticking to the low sodium recommendations that we're always hearing about?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The study found that the average salt intake in Israel was almost 10 grams a day,
Wow.
which is significantly higher than the World Health Organization's recommendation of less than 2 grams per day.
Wow. 10 grams is a huge difference. Was there a difference between like men and women?
Yeah, actually, men were consuming even more salt than women on average,
Yeah.
but both groups were well above those recommended levels.
Oh, wow. It really makes you think about how much salt we're all consuming without even realizing it.
Exactly.
Probably a lot more than we think, huh?
Absolutely. Now, here's where the study takes a really interesting turn. The research team discovered a direct link between the number of calories that people were eating and how much salt they consumed. So basically, the more calories someone ate, the more sodium they were taking in as well.
That's really interesting, this connection between calories and salt. What kind of difference are we talking about here, like in terms of actual sodium intake?
Well, they found that people who ate between, let's say, 2,333 and 6,234 calories a day were excreting over 4,200 milligrams of sodium daily.
Okay.
But those who ate less, between 812 and 12,275 calories, were only excreting around 3,176 milligrams. So you can see that there's a pretty significant difference there depending on calorie intake.
Okay, yeah. So that's a pretty big jump in those sodium levels just based on calorie intake alone. It's definitely making me rethink like my snacking habits for sure. But we're here to talk about blood pressure. Where does that fit into all of this?
Right, so before the researchers adjusted for the calorie intake, the group with the highest sodium excretion had almost 4 times greater odds of having high blood pressure. But here's the thing. After they adjusted for the calorie intake, that risk was cut in half.
Wow. That is a thought-provoking finding. Makes me wonder if we've been a little quick to blame salt, maybe without considering the bigger picture.
It definitely challenges the traditional narrative. We always talk about reducing salt.
Right.
But this research suggests that calorie intake might be a much bigger factor in high blood pressure than we've realized.
Interesting. So it's not just about like shaking less salt on our food, it's more about what we're eating overall.
Exactly. Our bodies are complex, and this whole salt and blood pressure relationship is way more nuanced than we might have thought. It's not just about this one single element.
Wow, that is fascinating. This study is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about salt and blood pressure. What else did the researchers find? Did they look at the relationship between weight and salt intake at all?
They did. And they found that obese individuals were consuming more salt than normal weight individuals.
Okay.
And here's another interesting finding: the highest salt intake was actually observed in obese individuals who also had high blood pressure.
So they're kind of facing a double whammy then, dealing with the potential risks of both, like the obesity and the excessive salt consumption.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Really highlights how interconnected these different health factors are.
Absolutely. This is giving me a lot to think about. It seems like we're moving away from this whole salt is bad mentality to more of a holistic understanding of how our dietary choices like calorie intake, weight management are all tied to blood pressure.
Exactly. It's not about like demonizing salt. It's just understanding that this one single factor might not be the sole culprit. when it comes to these complex health issues like blood pressure.
It's about making informed choices and recognizing that our health is really influenced by this, like this web of interconnected factors. It's about seeing the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
This is such an interesting shift in perspective.
It really is. And it highlights how scientific understanding is always evolving, right?
Right.
What we think we know today can change tomorrow.
That's why it's so important to stay informed. I'm definitely going to be checking out the full study on the Orium's Fit Research Digest blog.
I think you'll find it really enlightening.
I'm sure I will. This has been a really, really eye-opening deep dive so far.
I agree. It really makes you think about how interconnected our dietary choices are and how they really do impact our overall health.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
So speaking of chain reactions, where does this new information lead us? What can our listeners actually do with these findings? What are the practical implications here?
That's a great question. It's something that we're going to be delving into further. But before we get to that, I want to share a bit more about what we've learned from this study. So they also looked at how salt intake kind of varied depending on whether people already had high blood pressure. What they found was that among individuals who already had high blood pressure, those in the highest sodium intake group were also more likely to be obese and have other cardiometabolic risk factors, like higher cholesterol levels and larger waist circumference.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like for people who already have high blood pressure,
Yeah.
that high salt intake could be even more problematic, especially if they're also dealing with those, like, the obesity and the other health issues.
Yeah, that's exactly what this research suggests. Really underscores the importance of taking that holistic approach, to managing blood pressure.
Yeah.
It's not just about the salt. It's about kind of addressing all those interconnected factors.
Right. This whole conversation is making me realize that I need to, pay a lot more attention to my calorie intake. I'm pretty good about watching my salt, but I never really thought about how those two things are connected,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a connection I think a lot of people probably overlook.
Yeah.
It really highlights how important it is to be mindful, not just of what we're eating, but how much we're eating as well.
Totally. So what can we do about this? Let's say someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, I want to start paying more attention to my calorie intake and maybe lower my sodium consumption at the same time. Where do they even begin?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of practical steps that you can take. One thing I would say is, try to focus on eating whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible.
Okay.
Fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, these are all naturally lower in sodium
Right.
and can really help you feel fuller on fewer calories.
Makes sense. I know those processed foods are often loaded with sodium.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just forget about that when you're just grabbing something quick and convenient.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
so easy to forget about it, yeah. Those prepackaged meals and snacks, they can be tempting, but they can also be really sneaky sources of both sodium and extra calories.
Totally.
Cooking more meals at home allows you to really control the ingredients and also those portion sizes, which can make a big difference.
That's a good point. I mean, I actually enjoy cooking, but I get in a rut sometimes. I just make the same things over and over again. Do you have any tips for making healthy meals that are also exciting and flavorful? Because bland food is no fun.
Oh, yeah. Bland food is no fun. I mean, one of my favorite ways to add flavor without relying on salt is to experiment with herbs and spices. There's a whole world of flavor out there
So true.
beyond the salt shaker.
Right. I love using things like garlic and onion powder, smoked paprika, other spices to add a little depth to my dishes.
Yeah, those are great choices. And don't be afraid to get creative either.
Yeah.
Try different combinations, find what you like. You could even make your own spice blends at home.
I've never thought about making my own spice blends, but that's a great idea. It would be a fun way to get creative in the kitchen. Any other tips for cutting back on sodium?
Another one is to be a savvy label reader. You'd be surprised how much sodium is kind of lurking in seemingly healthy foods.
I know.
Even things like bread, yogurt, canned soups.
I know. I've been caught out by that before. You think you're making a healthy choice, and then you look at the label and it's just packed with sodium.
Right. It's misleading. So always check the label, compare different brands, and opt for those lower sodium options whenever possible.
Yeah.
Even those small changes can really add up.
Yeah, totally, totally. All of this is really highlighting how important it is to be informed and kind of take that proactive approach to our health. We can't just assume that something is healthy just based on the packaging or the marketing or whatever. We have to do our own research and make those informed choices.
100%. Knowledge really is power when it comes to health and well-being.
I love that. This has been so eye-opening. I'm curious what stood out to you most from this study. What was your biggest aha moment?
I think for me, the thing that was most striking was how this research really challenges kind of that conventional wisdom about salt and blood pressure.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder that science is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
We should always be open to new findings, even if they kind of go against what we thought we knew.
Right. It's a great reminder that there's always more to learn and that even like those long-held beliefs about health and nutrition can be challenged and refined, with new research.
Exactly. And studies like this one just highlight how important it is to take a more holistic, nuanced approach to our health, right? It's
Yeah.
not about finding this like one single bad guy to blame,
Mm.
but understanding how all these different factors kind of work together
Right.
to impact our well-being.
This whole discussion has me thinking about like all those other potential connections that might be out there, just waiting to be discovered.
Totally. It really makes you wonder.
Yeah.
There's so much we still don't know about the human body
Right.
and how it responds to different foods and different lifestyle
Well,
choices.
that's what makes this whole like field of nutrition so fascinating. There's always something new to learn. But for our listeners who are maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all this new information, what's the like key message we want them to take away? What's the bottom line?
I think if I had to sum it up, I would say managing blood pressure isn't just about reducing your salt intake. It's about kind of adopting a holistic approach.
Wow.
That really takes into account your overall dietary patterns. So this means being mindful of calorie intake, making healthy food choices, maintaining a healthy weight. All these factors are interconnected and they work together to, influence your blood pressure and your overall health.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. It's about taking a step back and seeing that bigger picture rather than getting like fixated on this one like specific element.
Exactly. It's about understanding that our bodies are complex.
Mhm.
And there's really no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for you as an individual.
And remember, you don't have to make drastic changes overnight. Even those small, sustainable changes can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. It's about progress, not perfection.
Well said. I'm so glad we had this conversation today. It's given me a lot to think about. And I hope it's done the same for our listeners. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier, the Orium's Fit Research Digest blog. So this study was featured on their blog, and I know they've done a lot of work to like make complex scientific research accessible to everyday people, right?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the blog and like what makes it so valuable?
It really is, yeah. The Orium's Fit Research Digest, it's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to stay up to date on the latest health and wellness research. But they don't have the time to read through all those dense scientific papers.
Right.
They really do a good job of taking all that really complex information and making it into these easy to understand summaries. And they highlight the practical takeaways.
Right.
So you can really see how this research applies to your everyday life.
Yeah, it's like having a team of like experts breaking it down for you and being like, here's what it means for you without all the like jargon and technical details.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not just about summarizing the studies either.
Right.
They provide context. They connect the dots between different research areas. So you can get a more holistic understanding of how all these factors impact your health.
Totally. I've been checking out their blog myself, and I'm really impressed with the variety of topics they cover.
Yeah.
Everything from nutrition and exercise to sleep and stress management.
Yeah, they do a really comprehensive job of covering all aspects of well-being. And they're constantly updating the blog with new content, so there's always something new to learn.
That's so great. It seems like they're really passionate about empowering people with knowledge so they can make those informed decisions, about their health.
Yeah, they are. And that's something I really admire about them. It's not just about selling products. They're really invested in helping people lead healthier and happier lives.
Totally. Speaking of Orium's Fit and their commitment to innovation, I have to ask you about something I saw on their website. Have you heard of the neck theater?
The neck theater, yeah.
Hmm?
It's a pretty amazing device.
I know.
It's basically a personal surround sound system that you can wear around your neck.
Right.
So you can enjoy immersive audio without having to use headphones or earbuds.
It's like having your own little private movie theater with you wherever you go. And what's cool is it doesn't block your ears, so you can still be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, that's a really great feature, especially if you're walking, running, cycling outdoors. Stay safe and still enjoy your audio.
I'm definitely intrigued. It seems like Orium's Fit is always like pushing the boundaries and what's possible in the world of like health and technology.
They really are. And I think that spirit of innovation is really evident in everything they do, from their products to, like you said, their research blog.
Well, before we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. This study that we talked about today, it really challenged some assumptions about salt and blood pressure. It showed us that there's often a lot more to the story and that focusing on one thing might not always be the best approach. So here's my question for our listeners. If calorie intake plays a bigger role than we thought in blood pressure, what other dietary factors might we be overlooking when it comes to our health? What other connections are out there waiting to be discovered?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's definitely one that researchers are exploring right now. There's so much that we still don't know about the connection between our diet and, our overall health. But by staying curious, staying informed, and being open to new discoveries, we can all continue to learn and grow and make the choices that support our well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, if you want to learn more about the study we talked about or explore some other fascinating research on health and wellness, be sure to check out the Orium's Fit Research Digest blog. We'll be sure to include a link in the show notes. Until next time, keep those brains curious and those bodies healthy.